Following on from my last video, where I talked about the importance of focusing on our individual hows, how we do something, how we process what we know. You know, the things that we think are true, the things that we think are against us. Following on from that, I want to offer something that's not so maybe abstract to guys who can't grasp it, but to rather put some sort of handles on it and make them a bit more practical. What I'd like to offer some of you guys is the perspective of not just listening to other people's words, reading books that resonate with you, listening to speeches, being inspired by other people that you can actually tell resonate with something that you can't quite hold or grasp or you haven't processed. It's the idea of being the own author of your life, not simply reading another's material, not reading a book that inspires you, but being interested enough and having enough will to want to write down a few words of your own, a few thoughts of your own. I think there's a lot of us walking around simply thinking that learning our ABCs and basic grammar is enough. But it's not. I would contend that, especially in today's climate, where we can't say certain words, we have to watch not just what we say, but how we say it, the political correctness of things, the overwhelming gynocentric nature of our lexicon, where we have to mind our P's and Q's. I think it's more incumbent on us to really think about how we speak, how we think, and how we ethically put our thoughts into action. It's not just rhetoric or hyperbole to me. It's really at the key of it. And I would offer to you guys to become your own author. Don't just read the more courageous and evolved mind of another author in a book or a video or something that spoke to you, that resonated, that flicked on a light switch in you. Don't just sit there consuming the evolved and more courageous minds of people that have taken a bit of mental risk and elucidated concepts that kind of speak to you. Have enough interest in yourself and your own life and to mitigate all the risks and bad things that might have happened to you so that they have less of a chance of happening again. Be interested enough to become that author, that speaker, the person that's more eloquent, the person that elucidates their thoughts a lot clearer, in ways that I wish I could speak like them. I wish I knew as much as them. I would offer, like a writer, like an author, like a public speaker, be interested to lean into the direction of that person, to know as much, to be interested enough. Be your own author. Don't just consume an author. Don't just read a book. Write yourself. And I don't mean that you literally need to become a writer, but don't just figuratively consume books that speak to you. Don't be fed another person's ideas. Be interested enough to write them down yourself. Be interested enough to sit down and process the hive of ideas that are going through your own mind. Elucidate them through paper or on a laptop. Make the confusion up here and the anxieties, make them solid. Make them solid on paper, make them solid on the screen. Make the narrative clearer so you can see it. Especially as a third person reading it, you'll be surprised at what you'll see. To sum it up, don't just read, write. Do the thing, in essence, that gave you the red pill ideas, the elucidations, the light bulb moments. Be more of that person. Try practicing to be that person that spoke to you. Try practicing to be the mentor. Be the author. Don't just read authors. Try and have the beautiful language you admire in an author or a content creator. Try and absorb some of that. Try and learn from some of that. Try and mimic some of that. And through that process, you'll start to find your own voice. I think it's similar to music. You just practice and absorb what someone else is playing until you find your own music. But don't just sit there being a passive listener or a passive reader. Be the creator yourself. Don't just absorb other people's creation. You'll start to feel more and more helpless and empty because you'll always need to be fed externally from someone who's smarter and more courageous than you. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Myself, including everyone else, was inspired by and continues to be inspired by many voices and many greater minds. But the thing is to keep moving forward and expanding. And you can't do that from this passive position of feed me intellect, feed me the way. You need to find your way, and you find your way by being the author yourself. I guess what I'm saying is don't rely on the engine of other people that you admire and you're barely surviving on their fumes. Create your own engine. Be your own author. Put another way, you must be interested in, if not completely obsessed with, the grammar of your life. Be the novelist of your own life. Be the writer of your own life. Start putting words and routines and ideas and formulate your own life. Don't let it be a herd of cats swimming around in your brain without any form. Give it some form. Find out what you want to do and what you think is right, what you think is wrong, what that first step more rationally is for you. And remember, in such an anti-masculine environment like we have today in the world, I think it's more important, if not essential, for every man to become their own author, because we are being given the narrative, a very female-based narrative, where there's like a lot of masculine things you can't say. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Words are censored. I think it's incumbent, if not absolutely necessary and essential, for men to be the authors of their own life and be interested enough in developing that language that they can practice through ethics. Simply knowing how to spell and knowing the words of life are not enough today, because you are being led by the female grammar out there, the female script, the female narrative. And if you're only allowed to speak in their prescribed ways, there's no wonder men can't find a way forward, because they're using the narrative of somebody else. They're using the language of somebody else. They're reading the books that aren't meant for them. And men are stopping themselves from writing their own books, being their own authors. Most of the words out there are other people's words. And it's no wonder a lot of men feel nihilistic. There's barely any narratives and words and phrases that speak to them. More and more, we keep talking about going back and reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, because there's so little masculinity in our world today that we have to go so far into the past to get any semblance of clarity of, what makes sense for a guy. Which is why I think it's even more important for guys to be the author of their own lives, creating some sort of proud masculinity you can stand by, writing your own life and rewriting your own life constantly. I feel like I'm doing it all the time. It's this constant process of becoming a better author and writer of your own life, and rewriting and getting better and better. It's not just a creative exercise. It imbues itself into life. It makes you understand life, because you're putting down words that you can act on. They're not prescribed ethics. They're self-generated ethics, because you've thought about things. You've put them down. You've wrestled with them. Be the writer, gentlemen. Do not just be a reader. Even though I may not know what I'm doing most of the time, I have a will of trying to author my way through life, fumbling through, rewriting and rewriting and trying to refine things. If anything else, there's a sense of confidence in being able to do this thing over and over again, and not relying helplessly on the world to give you these answers, to give you your script and your map. Be the author, create your own map. Keep refining it and start thinking for yourself, and have the confidence in doing so. Anyway, I hope some of those ideas resonated with you guys and gave you something to chew on. I'll speak to you later. Bye. Feel free to like, subscribe, and share my work on social media, comment under this content, or join the conversation on Discord. If you'd like to support me directly, there are donation options below. I appreciate all of you who have and continue to. It's people like you that make all the difference. Thanks.